Batman arrives on the northwestern Mediterranean coast of Lebanon. Before arriving, Batman checked in with Ralph Bundy, a friend of his at the CIA. That's how he found out about the hijacked C-130 transport plane. The plane had fallen into the hands of a Shiite extremist group who refused to give it back to Uncle Sam. So Batman made a deal with Bundy. He'd fix it so the U.S. Naval Commandos could fly out of there, but only if he could examine the plane before it took off. Batman has a fairly good idea who flew it there. The dead naval pilot in the cockpit confirms his suspicions. This is the Joker's handiwork. Batman's mini Geiger counter shows him that there's a high background radiation count in the loading bay. Whatever the nuclear device is that the Joker has acquired, its warhead is leaking slightly. If the Joker isn't careful, he's going to end up with radiation poisoning. We should all be so lucky. The Joker's gotten this far, which means whoever he's selling the weapon to is in Lebanon. It's probably terrorists, Batman assumes. However, it's hard for him to concentrate. He keeps wondering where Jason is. It's hard to believe Jason took off just because Bruce temporarily curtailed his duties as Robin. The lad has been acting strangely of late, and Bruce can only guess why. The boy hasn't yet adjusted to the death of his parents. Bruce wishes he could track down Jason and bring him home himself. But this Joker business takes priority. Lives are at stake. Bruce makes a call to check in with Alfred back in Gotham. He has done so every 12 hours since he left. Standard procedure for when the hero's escapades lead him out of the city. Alfred informs Bruce that he has just completed a computer check on all credit cards issued to their runaway charge, and apparently Jason was listed yesterday as a passenger on a late night flight to Israel. Bruce confirms the information before telling Alfred that he'll check Israel just as soon as he's done with the business in Lebanon. Elsewhere, Robin is infiltrating an Israeli military base. He attempted, briefly, to go through the proper channels, but they just plain refused to tell him where Charmine Rosen was. Honestly, Robin isn't surprised. Governments don't willingly give out the locations of their secret agents. Standard procedure. But national security secrets don't cut the ice with Jason. He just has to know where Ms. Rosen is. The lady may be his real mother. Fortunately, everything is kept on computers these days. Even where to find secret agents in case you need them. But, wouldn't you know, she's out of the country, undercover in Beirut. At least they've got the hotel she's staying at, Robin thinks. After a quick search, Robin finds there are no direct flights there from where he is now. He'll have to do some plane hopping. Still, he should be there by noon the next day. Beirut, a city in turmoil. A capital torn apart by armed, polarized factions, each trying to seize control. Seems everyone's either armed or crippled by the war. You can feel the tension on the streets. Chances are the Joker came to Beirut to contact his customers. It'd be too dangerous, even for him, to take his prize directly into the Bekaa Valley, where the radical elements are entrenched. Trouble is, Beirut's a big city, and Bruce doesn't know where to start. He flags down a cabbie to help him find his way around. Eventually, upon request, the cab driver drops Bruce off in the worst neighborhood in the city, the place where criminals gather. Weapon smuggling has got to be the area's leading commerce. Selling information probably runs a close second. But Bruce doesn't have time to bargain. A change of clothes will make it easier to take a direct approach. It takes some time, but Batman finds a man selling black market medical supplies. Just the kind of guy he's looking for. Batman can tell by the expression on the man's face that this is going to be easier than expected. Unlike Gotham's hoods, these gun cells don't know about the Batman. It's a case of unfamiliarity breeding fear. The guy can't wait to tell Batman everything he knows, which, unfortunately, isn't much. The next three characters Batman talks to aren't any help either. He finally hits pay dirt with number 5. The man tells Batman that there is someone at the Hotel Blue offering to sell the object Batman seeks. His name is Brando. Batman thanks the man by punching him across the jaw. He should be knocked out for a few hours or so. Batman reasons that he had to do it. He couldn't risk the man reaching Brando before he does. There aren't many hiding places in Lebanon. So, what happens next isn't much of a coincidence. Jason arrives at the hotel he tracked down Charmine Rosen to be staying at, the Hotel Blue. Bruce intercepts Jason and asks the boy what the devil he's doing. Jason explains that he's looking for his mother, his real mother. Jason goes on to mention finding his birth certificate in a box of his parents' belongings. He discovered his true mother's name was S. something, not Catherine. He'd found 3 women in his father's address book whose first name started with an S. He tracked them down using the Batcave computer. The woman he's tracking now is Charmine Rosen, an Israeli secret agent. Shiva Woosen, a suspected mercenary, is also in Beirut. Lastly, there's Dr. Sheila Hayward, working famine relief in Ethiopia. Bruce, in turn, explains the dealings with the Joker how the nuclear threat has to be dealt with. He had every intention of chasing after Jason back in Gotham. But lives are at stake. Jason shrugs it off, stating he understands. There's nothing glamorous about hunting down a runaway. When suddenly, out of nowhere, Bruce and Jason see the two people they are looking for walking arm in arm down the road. Weapons seller Peter Brando and Israeli agent Charmaine Rosen. And from the looks of it, Bruce and Jason are working the same case after all. Peter Brando and Charmaine Rosen get into a car and head for the outskirts of the city. Bruce and Jason are able to follow them for a while in their own truck, but the road quickly becomes deserted in the outskirts, and Bruce has to pull over for fear of being seen. Luckily, Bruce has something with him that will turn him and Jason invisible. His jet-powered hang gliders. They'll look like nothing but birds in the distance. The two heroes change into their costumes, grab the gliders, and lift into the air. It's funny that Bruce decided to bring a spare glider along. Maybe he's getting precognitive in his old age. He has to admit, even under these circumstances, it feels good having Jason by his side again. The two heroes shadow their targets into the night as they continue heading south. They finally stop at a camp near the Israeli border. The heroes then land a safe distance away before approaching closer by foot, stopping only when they were close enough to hear the ongoing conversations. The two watch as Peter Brando and Charmaine Rosen approach the Joker, his henchmen, and a group of local extremists. Rupert, Joker's henchman from Gotham, asks Peter Brando if he has the money for the payment. Brando smirks. Of course he does. And he brought it with them in the case. $1 million. The Joker begins to laugh. He turns to the group of extremists, telling them the deal is done. He's got the cash, so they are now the proud owners of a brand new 1988 cruise missile. The Joker himself stole, dismantled, and reassembled the firecracker after smuggling it into the country. The gentlemen have made themselves an excellent buy, and they have the Joker's word on it. The Joker hands over the firing code and the coordinates for the target him and the buyer previously discussed, then turns to make his leave. That's when Batman and Robin make their move. The two heroes run over the hill and incapacitate the extremists guarding the perimeter. This alerts the crooks and criminals, and they respond with a barrage of bullet fire. It's international cooperation. Arab extremists and American terrorists are now joining forces to kill the two heroes. There's a lesson to be learned from this, but Batman and Robin are a little too busy at the moment to appreciate the situation's geopolitical significance. The heroes take it nice and slow. They whittle their enemies' numbers down, one at a time. The darkness is their ally. These men depend on guns too much. They feel the cold steel in their hands, and it makes them overconfident, makes them careless. That's when Batman hears the sniper rise from behind the rocks. He's ready to roll out of the sniper's line of fire, but ends up not having to. Charmaine Rosen, Israeli agent, joins the fray. It's just too bad she didn't check behind her before acting. Charmaine takes out the sniper, but Peter Brando is able to get the drop on her. He holds her at gunpoint and threatens to blow her brains out. Robin rushes in to save the woman who could potentially be his mother. The boy's angry cry now makes him Brando's target, just as Batman's sure Robin intended. At that range, Batman can tell Brando will cut Robin clean in half, but he can't reach him in time to stop him from firing. There's no way for him to save Jason. Batman, however, didn't take into consideration the capabilities of Ms. Rosen. She easily dispatches with Peter Brando herself by flipping her attacker over her shoulder. Meanwhile, the leader of the extremist group is attempting to enter in the coordinates in order to fire the missile before Batman can put a stop to him. He aims it towards Tel Aviv. But right as the leader of the group presses on the launch button, the missile detonates where it stands, killing over a dozen men. Our heroes, being farther away from the missile, are thrown back by the force of the explosion. How is this possible? They all wonder. The Joker said he had dismantled and reassembled the rocket. Apparently, he rushed. The heroes are just lucky the nuclear warhead didn't detonate along with the rocket. And speaking of the Joker, as Batman examines the area, it seems the Joker has escaped again. Charmaine Rosen, the Israeli agent, thanks Batman and Robin for their aid to the Israeli people. Robin tells her it wasn't any problem, and hopefully she can return the favor. All she has to do is answer his question. The boy asks the woman if she's ever been to Gotham City, if she's ever had a baby there. As strange as the question may be, Ms. Rosen answers it. She has not. Whoever Robin is looking for, it isn't her. Batman and Robin then escort Ms. Rosen back to Beirut, using their hang gliders. She didn't care for the ride. Ms. Rosen breathed a sigh of relief when they transferred to the Land Rover, and the sun was up by the time they reached Beirut. All in all, Ms. Rosen was a nice lady, Jason comments. Just not the right lady. Jason tells Bruce he's not going back to the States yet. He's got 2 more women to check out still. Shiva Woosan, who is somewhere there in Beirut, and Sheila Hayward in Ethiopia. Bruce, regrettably, tells Jason that he'll stick around, if anything, to make sure the boy doesn't get himself into too much trouble. And elsewhere, at a nearby airport, a weaselly-looking man walks up to the counter and purchases one ticket to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. His flight leaves soon.